All right, Mark. The Wanderer in Africa, our 2010 book of the year, 2009 book of the year, chosen for the new year here. Can you give us a little insight to this?
Yes, when I first read The Wanderer, I was totally captivated because this is a story about a probably a 19-year-old boy who's working on the farm with his parents and his two sisters, and he wants to experience the world. And his father gets sick, and his father asks him to stay home to help with the farm, but he doesn't want to do it. And so the parents let him go, and he goes and works with his uncle, who's a printer in London. And while he's there, he starts to hang around with the bad crowd and actually ends up in jail. And his father's got to come and bail him out. He's very embarrassed and is on the ride home. You know, everyone's thinking that maybe now he's learned his lesson. He's got enough of the world. He's been beat up enough, and now he'll go home and help his parents. But now he uses his arrest as an excuse that he's too embarrassed to be going home back to his community, so now he's leaving for good. Mm-hmm. So that was really another interesting section of the book where it shows the human heart. You know, when we want to do something, we're going to do it no matter what. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah.
And so he leaves and he ends up in Africa. And while he's in Africa, he becomes kind of like an apprentice to this very high-powered individual who has slaves, and they're going through northern Africa and actually going to go through the desert. And this young man, he's kind of like his gopher. He does everything that he's asked to do, and mm-hmm. he ends up spraining his ankle. Mm-hmm. And the man, since he sees him with a sprained ankle, he doesn't have any use for him anymore. And he says, "I'm leaving you here for dead." You know, and so here he is. He's raised in a Christian home. He's ruined his reputation, and now he's in Africa, and now he has nothing left. Mm-hmm. And each chapter of this book, The Wanderer, is based on a verse from Psalm 34. Mm. And if you know anything about Psalm 32, if you know anything about Psalm 32, it's talking about blessed are those whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sin is covered. And so he has never really come to know Jesus Christ as his personal Lord and Savior. And so he now realizes that God is putting in his path all of these difficult situations to turn him back toward the Lord. And he gets to this one place. When I get to this last chapter in the book, I'm not going to tell you what happens. I mean, he's in Africa. He gets left for dead. Poisonous snake crawls over his leg as he's praying. Mm-hmm. And he realizes he's got nothing else other than to cry out to God. And he really thinks there's just no way he can live through this. Mm-hmm. But, of course, there's some miracles in the story. But this is what captured my attention more than anything. Through all of the lessons that he learns. In Psalm 32, it says this, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way that you shall go. I will guide you with my eye." Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought of this before, but that phrase, "I will guide you with my eye," as I'm reading the story, it comes alive to me. And this is what I love about the Lamplighter stories, because they help me to understand just a different point of view of the character of God, a different point of view of the truths that are written in the Word that maybe I never understood before. Mm-hmm. So that phrase, he will instruct me, he will guide me with his eye. I just never really put that together. But what it's talking about, for example, when my children were young, if I were to look at my oldest son, Jonathan, and he was doing something that he shouldn't be doing, it wouldn't really hold him and restrain him. Mm-hmm. But if I were to look at my daughter, Jennifer, when she was a young child, just a glance at her would have kept her from doing something that I didn't want her to do. And what this is telling us is that God will guide us with his eyes, that when our heart is totally in tune with his, all it takes is just a glance from God's eye to keep us on the path of righteousness. Just the knowledge of knowing that God is with me, he lives in me, he's beside me at all times, helps a person who is not wandering from God, but walking with God, keeps him that close to the center of his will. And I learned that in this book, The Wanderer.
That little book, it's all in there, huh?
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome.